Good afternoon, everyone. So today is our third week of the lesson CSS 12 for the second quarter. And now we are going to discuss another lesson, and the topic is all about the motherboard and its parts. So motherboard is also called the system board. So it is the main printed circuit board in an electronic device which contains sockets or slots that accept additional boards. And we have here a picture of a motherboard. So this is an example of a motherboard. Next is what we call the CPU socket. So when you CPU socket is a portion in the motherboard which holds the CPU or the central processing unit or simply the processor. And this is the example or the picture of a CPU socket or central processing unit socket. So when you say memory or memory RAM slot is the slot where you will insert the memory module or memory card. Some motherboard comes with 2 to 4 slots aside from the motherboard specification. So looking at the memory slots would help you to know which type of memory card is compatible. And this is an example of a memory RAM slot. Next is we have the 24-pin ATX power connector. So this is the portion where you can connect the power supply unit or the PSU to the power connector. So motherboards come with different power supply controller. So old motherboard needs AT power supply unit while new motherboard needs ATX power supply. And with this is the picture of a 24-pin ATX power connector. Next is North Bridge chipset. So this handles the data transfer duties of memory, CPU, and AGP and to make the most efficient use of available resources. And that this is what we call the North Bridge chipset. This one here, let me point it out for you. This is our North Bridge chipset. This one. So next is the South Bridge chipset. So it provides support for a wide variety of devices with many differing bus speeds and designs. So control over secondary buses such as the USB, the IDE, the PS2, the Ethernet is the South Bridge main role. Next is we have the CMOS or the BIOS chip. So when you say CMOS, this is the complementary metal oxide semiconductor. So it is also a chip set which contains the BIOS. So BIOS also means the basic input-output system. So the BIOS is the built-in software that tells what a computer can do without accessing programs from a disk. So this is an example of a CMOS or BIOS chip. Next is the tools and equipment. So one important thing to consider before executing a well-planned computer installation is that one must be knowledgeable in the different tools and equipments used in computer systems and networks. So furthermore, the idea on how these tools and equipments are properly used is another important consideration in installing computer system. So here, we have here the hardware tools, equipments, and their functions. And then this is the pictures we have on your right side. So first we have the protective eyewear. So this is an example of a protective eyewear. So this protective eyewear is an enclosed or can protect the eye area in order to prevent particulates, infectious fluids, or chemicals from striking the eyes. Next is we have the multi-tester or the multimeter. So a multimeter or a multi-tester, also known as a VOM or the volt ohm, several measurement functions in one unit. Next is we have the pliers. So pliers are assorted. So this is, we have here an example of a pliers. So pliers is a hand tool used to hold objects firmly for bending or physical compression. And then we also have the screwdriver. So a screwdriver is also a tool for driving screws and often rotating other machine elements with a mating drive system. Next is we have the soldering gun. So when you say soldering gun, it is a tool for soldering metals using tin-based solder to achieve a highly conductive contact. And then we also have the desoldering tool. So desoldering tool are used for removing the molten solder that so that the joint may be separated. Next, we also have the Allen wrench. So a hex key, Allen key, or Allen wrench, also known by various other synonyms, is a tool for hexagonal cross-section used to be drive bolts and screws that have a hexagonal socket in the head or the internal wrenching hexagon drive. We also have flashlight. So a flashlight or torch in British English is a handheld portable electric powered light source. So usually the light source is a small incandescent light bulb or light emitting diode or LED. So next is we have also the IC insertion or extraction tool. So this is used for extracting and inserting BIOS chip. Next, we also have mirror. So in hardware, servicing a mirror is used for inspecting the peripherals. Then we also have tweezers. So tweezers are tools used for picking up objects too small to be easily handled with the human hands. So ito yung mga ginagamit like sa mga maliliit na bagay. And the last one is we have the anti-static wrist strap, or also known as the ESD wrist strap or the ground bracelet. So ground bracelet is an anti-static device used to safely ground a person working on very sensitive electronic equipment to prevent the buildup of static electricity on their body, which can result in electrostatic discharge or ESD. So here, let me encircle for you the anti-static wrist strap or the ground bracelet. This one, the blue one here, is what we call the anti-static wrist strap or ESD wrist strap or ground bracelet. So that could be all for our third week lesson for the CSS 12 second quarter. So thank you and goodbye.